When the Galactic Council first discovered Earth, they classified humanity as a primitive herbivore species, soft, weak creatures who somehow managed to survive on a death world through pure luck. They were wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Humans weren't prey that got lucky. They were predators so efficient, so relentlessly deadly, that they had hunted their own planet's apex predators into submission, domestication, or extinction. And now, as alien species across the galaxy learn to their horror, there's nowhere left for humanity to hunt, except the stars themselves. What happens when the universe's most successful predator species discovers they're no longer alone? What happens when creatures who turned wolves into pets and made even the mighty T-Rex a fossil decide that the galaxy's so-called apex predators look like interesting new challenges? The galaxy is about to find out why humans don't just survive on death worlds, they thrive on them, and why every other species should be very, very afraid. Captain Zarathek of the Viridian Empire had seen many worlds in her 3 decades of service, but Earth made her skin crawl in ways she couldn't explain. The blue and green planet hung before her flagship like a jewel, beautiful and serene, yet something deep in her predatory instincts screamed danger. Readings confirm, Captain, reported her tactical officer, Lieutenant Crixon, his scale hands dancing over holographic displays. The inhabitants are bipedal mammals, averaging 1.7 meters in height. Bone density suggests they evolve in higher gravity than most civilized worlds. No signs of advanced technology or spacefaring capability. Zarathek's reptilian features relaxed slightly. Her people, the Viridians, had dominated their home system for millennia before achieving interstellar flight. They were apex predators, 12 feet of muscle, teeth, and natural armor that had evolved from the galaxy's most successful hunters. In all their expansion across 17 systems, they had never encountered a species that could match their physical prowess. "Any signs of planetary defenses?" she asked, her voice carrying the natural growl that made most species submit immediately. "None detected, Captain. Their most advanced technology appears to be chemical combustion engines and basic electronics. They're barely past their industrial age." Perfect. The Viridian Empire had specific protocols for primitive worlds. Survey the resources, catalog the inhabitants, determine their usefulness as laborers or food sources. This backwater planet would be another easy addition to their growing territory. Take us into orbit. Prepare the survey teams. As the massive Viridian warship descended through Earth's atmosphere, atmospheric sensors began picking up unusual readings. The ship's xenobiologist, Dr. Essie Katar, frowned at her displays. "Captain, these readings are peculiar." "Explain." "The planet's biodiversity is extraordinary, but there are massive gaps in the fossil record. Species that should be present based on evolutionary models are simply gone, extinct within the last 100,000 years." Zarathek's interest peaked. Mass extinction events usually indicated either catastrophic natural disasters or the rise of a particularly successful predator species. "Show me the dominant life forms." The holographic display shimmered, revealing various creatures. Dr. Essie Katar highlighted each one as she spoke. "These humans appear to be the dominant intelligent species, but they're not the apex predators. That would be these creatures. Large felines they call lions, massive bears, various shark species in the oceans. Yet the humans exist in massive population centers, seemingly unafraid of these natural hunters. Perhaps they've developed weapons?" "They have, but the timeline doesn't match. According to atmospheric carbon dating, humans have lived alongside these predators for hundreds of thousands of years, long before developing advanced tools. They should have been extinct within generations." Zarathek studied the data with growing confusion. In the galactic community, the rule was simple. Apex predators ruled their worlds until they developed technology, then they ruled the stars. Prey species either served or died. These humans defied every natural law she understood. "Take us to one of their larger settlements." "We'll make contact." The Viridian ship settled onto a field outside what the humans called New York City. Within hours, primitive human aircraft approached, tiny metal contraptions that sparked amusement among the Viridian crew. "Should we destroy them, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Crickson. "No. We'll demonstrate our superiority through display, not violence." Yet, the first human delegation arrived in ground vehicles. 6 individuals wearing formal attire and expressions of barely contained fear and excitement. They were led by a female human who introduced herself as Secretary of State Sarah Chun. The humans were smaller than expected, Zarathek noted as she studied them through the ship's cameras. Soft-looking, with minimal natural weapons. No claws, small teeth, fragile bone structure. How had these creatures survived even a day on a world filled with natural predators? The formal contact took place in a hastily erected human structure they called a pavilion. Zarathek attended with her full ceremonial guard, 10 elite Viridian warriors whose presence usually sent even the bravest species fleeing in terror. Secretary Chun stepped forward, her small frame dwarfed by the 12-foot reptilian predators surrounding her. To Zarathek's surprise, the human showed no signs of the submissive behavior that typically followed first contact with Viridians. "Welcome to Earth," Secretary Chun said, her voice steady despite facing creatures that could literally bite her in half. "We hope this marks the beginning of peaceful relations between our peoples." Zarathek found herself oddly impressed. Most species either attacked futilely or immediately offered their surrender when faced with Viridian warriors. These humans seem to be doing neither. "I am Captain Zarathek of the Viridian Empire," she replied, her translator rendering her words into the human's primitive language. "We claim this world and its resources for the Empire. Your species will be evaluated for usefulness." She expected fear, pleading, perhaps an attempt at negotiation. Instead, Secretary Chin's expression remained calm, almost calculating. "I appreciate your directness, Captain. However, Earth is not available for claiming. This is our world, and we protect what is ours." The audacity stunned Zarathek into momentary silence. Behind her, she heard her guards' low growls of disbelief. A prey species was refusing to submit to apex predators? "You misunderstand your situation," Zarathek said, stepping closer to loom over the small human. "We are Viridians. We are apex predators who have conquered 17 systems. Your soft species exists at our mercy." Secretary Chun looked up at the towering reptilian warrior without flinching. "Captain, I think you misunderstand our situation. Would you like to know what happened to our apex predators?" Something in the human's tone triggered an instinctive unease in Zarathek. "Explain." "We domesticated them. The largest land predators on our world. We turned them into pets. Creatures that could kill us easily now sleep in our children's beds and perform tricks for treats. The ocean's most efficient killers swim in our entertainment facilities. The apex predators of our world either serve us, live where we permit them to live, or exist only in our history books." The translation software struggled with the concept of domestication as applied to apex predators. Dr. S.E. Katar quickly pulled up her files, her expression growing increasingly alarmed. "Captain," she whispered urgently, "the fossil record, the missing species, they didn't go extinct naturally. They were managed, controlled. Some were completely eliminated, others were somehow altered at the genetic level." Secretary Chun continued speaking with that same unsettling calm. "You call yourselves apex predators, and I'm sure you are in your natural environment. But this is our world, Captain. Here, we're the apex predators. We're just usually very polite about it." Zarathek felt something she hadn't experienced since childhood, genuine uncertainty. Everything about these humans contradicted her understanding of predator-prey relationships. Soft, weak creatures didn't dominate apex predators through politeness. "You're bluffing," she growled. "Your species lacks the natural weapons necessary for predation." "Natural weapons?" Secretary Chun smiled, and for the first time, Zarathek saw something predatory in the expression. "Captain, we turned making weapons into an art form. We've been perfecting the craft for 200,000 years. Our ancestors hunted creatures 50 times their size using nothing but sharp sticks and teamwork. What do you think we can do now?" As if summoned by her words, the distant sound of aircraft grew louder. Not the primitive jets from earlier, something else. Something that made the ground vibrate with power. "Ah," Secretary Chun said, glancing at her timepiece. "Perfect timing. Captain, I'd like you to meet some of our companions." The aircraft that descended toward the pavilion were unlike anything in Viridian experience. Sleek, predatory shapes that moved with deadly grace. But it wasn't the machines that made Zarathek's blood freeze. It was their escorts. Flying alongside the aircraft, matching their speed with casual ease, were creatures that defied possibility. Massive birds of prey, but wrong somehow. Too large, too intelligent, too obviously controlled. In the distance, Zarathek could see other shapes moving, four-legged forms that ran with pack coordination, heading toward their position with obvious intent. "Captain," Dr. Esikatar's voice crackled through the calm, barely controlled panic evident. "Those aren't natural creatures. They've been modified, enhanced. The genetic markers suggest deliberate manipulation over thousands of generations." Secretary Chun noticed Zarathek's shock. "Oh, you recognize selective breeding when you see it? Excellent. What you're looking at are the descendants of Earth's apex predators, wolves, eagles, and several others. We've been improving them for quite some time. They're very good at what they do." The aircraft landed, and from them emerged more humans. But these were different from the soft diplomats. These humans moved with liquid precision, their eyes constantly scanning for threats, their bodies radiating the kind of controlled violence that Zarathek associated with elite warriors. And beside them walked the enhanced predators, creatures that had been apex hunters made into something far deadlier through millennia of human guidance. "Meet our military delegation," Secretary Chun said pleasantly. "Colonel Martinez and his team have been eager to learn about Viridian combat capabilities. They find other predator species educational." Colonel Martinez stepped forward, his movements economical and precise. Unlike Secretary Chun, he showed no diplomatic courtesy. His gaze assessed the Viridian warriors with the cold calculation of a professional killer evaluating potential prey. "Captain," he said, his voice carrying the kind of quiet authority that spoke of absolute confidence in violence. "We've been monitoring your ship since you entered our system. Impressive technology, but we notice you rely heavily on physical intimidation and natural weapons. Our analysts are curious how you'd perform against opponents who specialize in killing things bigger and stronger than themselves." The enhanced wolves padding silently around the pavilion reinforced his point. Each creature was the size of a small horse, their intelligence obviously far beyond natural canines. They moved with pack coordination while somehow managing to defer to the humans among them. Zarathek found herself in the unprecedented position of being surrounded by creatures that registered as predators in her hindbrain, yet appeared to be completely subordinate to what should have been prey species. "Your threats don't frighten us," she managed, though her voice lacked its earlier conviction. Colonel Martinez smiled, and the expression was nothing like Secretary Chen's diplomatic pleasantness. It was the smile of something that enjoyed hunting. "Captain, we haven't made any threats yet. We're just introducing ourselves. But since you mentioned being frightened," he gestured casually, and the enhanced eagles circling overhead descended to perch on structures around the pavilion. Each bird's gaze fixed on a different Viridian warrior with unmistakable predatory focus. "These are our companions, not our weapons," Colonel Martinez continued conversationally. "Our actual weapons are considerably more direct. Would you like a demonstration?" For the first time in her career, Captain Zarathek found herself seriously considering retreat when faced with a species that should have been easy prey. Everything about this situation violated her understanding of natural order. Apex predators ruled through strength, but These humans seemed to rule through something far more disturbing. They had turned predation itself into a science. "We'll need to report back to the Empire," she said, trying to maintain some dignity in what felt increasingly like a withdrawal. "Of course," Secretary Chun replied with renewed diplomatic warmth. "We'll be here when you're ready to continue negotiations. Take all the time you need to consider the situation." As the Viridian delegation returned to their ship, Zarathek couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't leaving as conquerors denied. They were leaving as prey that had been temporarily spared. The humans had demonstrated something far more terrifying than superior weapons or numbers. They had shown that they didn't just defeat apex predators, they collected them. Admiral Korthax received Captain Zarathek's report with the kind of disbelief reserved for impossible claims. As supreme military commander of the Viridian Empire, he had conquered 43 worlds across 9 systems. Never had a primitive species dared to refuse submission, much less done so while surrounded by trained apex predators. "You're certain that these humans haven't achieved spaceflight?" he asked for the 3rd time, his massive claws drumming against the command chair aboard the flagship Devastator. "Completely certain, Admiral," Zarathek replied via holographic transmission. "Their most advanced craft use chemical propulsion. They barely manage orbital satellites. But their mastery over their planet's ecosystem is unlike anything we've encountered." Admiral Korthax studied the transmitted data files. Genetic analyses of the creatures surrounding the human delegation showed impossible complexity, thousands of years of guided evolution that had enhanced natural predators beyond their original capabilities. The implications disturbed him on a fundamental level. "Return to the fleet. I'm bringing the entire 5th battle group. These humans need to understand their place in the galactic hierarchy." 3 days later, 18 Viridian warships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth. Each vessel carried a full complement of elite warriors. Over 10,000 of the galaxy's most successful predators armed with weapons that had brought down civilizations. Admiral Korthax had chosen to make contact at a different location this time. His intelligence indicated that the humans maintained large military installations in various locations across their planet. He selected one called Fort Bragg, in the region they labeled North Carolina. The sight of 18-kilometer-long warships descending through Earth's atmosphere should have triggered mass panic and immediate surrender. Instead, Admiral Korthax watched with growing confusion as human military activity increased, but remained organized and purposeful rather than chaotic. "Admiral," reported a sensor officer, "we're detecting massive movement of human forces worldwide. They appear to be repositioning rather than fleeing." "Show me." The tactical display revealed the impossible. Across the planet, human military units were moving with coordinated precision. Rather than hiding or scattering, they seemed to be establishing defensive positions and moving assets into strategic locations. "Sir," the communications officer announced, "we're receiving a transmission from the human military installation below." "Put them on screen." The holographic display revealed a human male wearing what appeared to be a military uniform decorated with various insignia. Unlike the diplomats from the previous encounter, this human showed no deference or fear. His expression was professionally neutral, the look of a predator assessing a potential threat. "Admiral Korthax, I presume," the human said in accented but clear galactic standard. "I'm General Patricia Hayes, commanding officer of this installation. We need to talk." The fact that they knew his name and spoke a galactic language they shouldn't have encountered before sent new alarms through Admiral Korthax's tactical thinking. "Human, you will surrender your forces immediately. Resistance will result in the complete elimination of your species." General Hayes' expression didn't change. "Admiral, before we discuss surrender, there are some things about Earth you need to understand. Would you join me for a tour of our facilities? I think you'll find it educational." The audacity should have been insulting, but something in the human's tone suggested confidence backed by capability rather than mere bravado. "You're inviting apex predators into your territory?" "Admiral, this is our territory. Everything on this planet exists because we permit it to exist. That includes you, for the moment. Admiral Korthax found himself genuinely curious about the source of such confidence. He agreed to the meeting, bringing a full battalion of elite guards to the human installation. Fort Bragg sprawled across thousands of acres, but what struck Admiral Korthax immediately was how it felt less like a military base, and more like a vast training ground for predators. Humans moved through the facility with the kind of casual deadliness he associated with apex hunters, but there was something more. They moved with pack coordination while maintaining individual initiative. General Hayes met them at the landing zone accompanied by several other humans and a collection of creatures that made Admiral Korthax's predatory instincts scream warnings. "Admiral, meet some of our partners," General Hayes said, gesturing to the animals surrounding her. They were clearly descended from Earth's natural predators, but enhanced beyond anything that should have been possible. Massive felines that moved with liquid grace, their eyes showing intelligence far beyond natural animals. Canines that coordinated like a military unit while deferring to human commanders. Birds of prey circling overhead with obvious tactical awareness. These are descendants of our planet's apex predators, General Hayes explained as they walked through the base. "We've been working together for about 40,000 years now. They're good at their jobs." "You enslaved your apex predators?" Admiral Korthax asked, though something told him that wasn't the correct interpretation. "Enslaved?" General Hayes seemed genuinely puzzled by the concept. "Admiral, these aren't slaves. They're partners, teammates, family in many cases. We enhance them, and in return, they help us be better predators than either species could manage alone." They passed a training area where Admiral Korthax witnessed something that challenged his understanding of natural law. Humans were practicing combat maneuvers alongside their enhanced animal partners with coordination that spoke of generations of joint evolution. But more disturbing was watching humans train alone. Their movements were fluid, economical, and absolutely deadly. "Your species adapted for persistence hunting," Admiral Korthax observed, noting how the humans moved with tireless efficiency. "Among other things," General Hayes agreed. "We're pursuit predators, pack hunters, tool users, and strategic thinkers. But our real advantage is that we don't hunt for survival anymore. We hunt for improvement. Meaning, we've been the apex predators on this world for so long that we've had to create new challenges. Wars, competitive sports, exploration, scientific research. We turned hunting into a drive for constant advancement." They arrived at a facility that Admiral Korthax initially mistook for a museum until he realized the creatures inside were alive. Massive predators from Earth's history, some extinct in the wild but preserved in controlled environments, others modified and enhanced for specific purposes. "This is our genetic preservation facility," General Hayes explained. "We keep samples and breeding populations of every apex predator that's ever existed on this world. Some we brought back from extinction, others we prevented from going extinct in the first place." Admiral Korthax stared at creatures that should have been myths, massive bears that had been enhanced for intelligence and strength, great cats that moved with obvious tactical awareness, marine predators adapted for land operations. "You preserve the predators that should have been your competitors?" "Admiral, they were never our competitors. They were our teachers. Every predator on this world taught us something about hunting, and we used those lessons to become better than any of them individually." The tour continued to a weapons development facility that made Admiral Korthax reassess everything he thought he knew about primitive species. The humans hadn't just developed advanced weapons. They had turned weapon creation into an art form that showed clear predatory thinking. "We started with sharp sticks," General Hayes commented, noting his interest. 40,000 years later, we can destroy continents from orbit if we choose to. But that's not really the point. What is the point? The point is that we don't hunt for food anymore. We don't hunt for territory. We hunt because we're good at it, and we enjoy the challenge of becoming better. They reached the Central Command facility where Admiral Korthax saw the true scope of human capability. Banks of computers monitored not just Earth, but displayed tracking information for objects throughout the solar system. When he inquired, General Hayes explained that they had been watching his fleet since it entered the system. "You've been observing us? Admiral, we've been studying your species since your first ship appeared. Your technology, your tactics, your social structure. It's all quite fascinating from a predatory analysis perspective." Admiral Korthax felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. Predatory analysis? Understanding how a potential threat hunts is the first step in developing countermeasures. Your species relies on physical intimidation, superior individual strength, and conventional military tactics. It's effective against most opponents, but it has weaknesses. What weaknesses? General Hayes smiled with the same predatory expression Admiral Korthax had seen from the previous human delegation. "Would you like a demonstration?" Before he could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the facility. Not panic alarms, tactical alerts that sent humans and their animal partners moving with immediate coordination. "What's happening?" "Training exercise," General Hayes replied casually. "We run live-fire drills against simulated hostile forces several times a week. Keeps everyone sharp." Admiral Korthax watched through command center displays as units across the planet began coordinated maneuvers. What he saw challenged every assumption about human military capability. These weren't the primitive fighters he had expected. Human forces moved with the precision of elite predators, but more than that, they moved with the kind of innovative tactics that spoke of a species that had turned warfare into a science. "Your forces are more advanced than our intelligence suggested." "Admiral, our intelligence on your forces suggests you prefer direct confrontation and overwhelming force. Standard apex predator tactics. Very effective, but predictable. And your tactics? We learned from pack hunters, ambush predators, persistence hunters, and strategic hunters. Then we combined all those approaches and enhanced them with technology. We don't fight like any single type of predator. We fight like all of them simultaneously." The demonstration continued with displays of weapons systems that should have been impossible for a pre-spaceflight civilization. Precision orbital strikes, coordinated multi-planetary defenses, and weapons that showed clear understanding of technologies the humans shouldn't have possessed. "How do you have advanced weapons without spaceflight capability?" "Who said we don't have spaceflight capability?" General Hayes asked with obvious amusement. The command center displays shifted to show the outer solar system, revealing structures that Admiral Korthax had missed in his initial scans. Human installations throughout their solar system, cleverly concealed but obviously extensive. "We've been spacefaring for decades, Admiral. We just prefer to keep it quiet until we understand who we might encounter out there." Admiral Korthax felt the familiar sensation of being outmaneuvered by a superior predator. "You've been studying galactic civilization?" "For about 30 years now. We've learned a great deal about various species and their capabilities. Your Viridian Empire is quite impressive, but you have a fundamental weakness that most apex predator species share, which is you assume that because you're the apex predator in your natural environment, you'll be the apex predator everywhere. But, Admiral, this isn't your natural environment. This is ours." As if summoned by her words, the enhanced predators throughout the facility became more visible. Admiral Korthax realized that his battalion of elite guards had been subtly surrounded by creatures that moved with obvious tactical coordination while somehow managing to defer completely to human authority. "You're threatening us?" "Admiral, we haven't made any threats. We've simply shown you our world. The question now is whether you want to continue with your original plan to conquer us, or if you'd prefer to discuss more mutually beneficial arrangements." Admiral Korthax found himself in the unprecedented position of commanding overwhelming military superiority while simultaneously feeling like prey. Everything about human civilization suggested that they had evolved beyond normal predator-prey relationships into something far more complex and dangerous. "What kind of arrangements?" "The kind that recognize what we both are, Admiral. You're apex predators who've mastered conventional warfare, and built an empire through strength. We're apex predators who've mastered unconventional warfare and built our civilization through constant adaptation. We could learn from each other. Or General Hayes' smile became distinctly predatory. Or we could find out who's better at what they do. But, Admiral, I should mention that we've never lost a hunting competition. Not once in 200,000 years. As Admiral Korthax considered his options, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was no longer the hunter in this situation. Somehow, without him realizing it, he had become the prey. Emperor Vractul of the Viridian Empire had ruled for over 60 years through simple principles. Strength commanded respect, predators ruled prey, and inferior species served or died. Admiral Korthax's report from Earth challenged every one of those principles in ways that made the ancient ruler's scales itch with unease. They claim to be apex predators, yet they appear soft and weak, he growled to his assembled war council aboard the Imperial flagship Dominator. They threaten our forces while lacking proper claws, teeth, or natural armor. War Minister Sek Thul, a scarred veteran of 30 campaigns, studied the tactical reports with growing concern. My Emperor, their weakness may be deceptive. Our forces report that these humans move with pack coordination while maintaining individual initiative, a combination we've never encountered. Irrelevant, Emperor Vractul declared. No prey species has ever resisted the Empire successfully. I'm authorizing the complete mobilization of the Third Imperial Fleet. 200 warships should be sufficient to demonstrate proper hierarchy. The decision would prove to be the most catastrophic military blunder in Viridian history. General Patricia Hayes stood in the command center at NORAD, watching displays that tracked the approaching Viridian fleet with the calm focus of a predator that had been preparing for this hunt for decades. Around her, human military personnel coordinated with enhanced animal partners in a dance of tactical preparation that represented 40,000 years of cooperative evolution. Satellite network confirms 200 Viridian vessels entering the outer solar system, reported Colonel Chun, her fingers dancing over holographic displays while a modified raven perched on her shoulder, its enhanced intelligence processing sensor data faster than any computer. Deployment status? General Hayes asked, scratching behind the ears of the enhanced wolf beside her chair, a creature whose ancestors had learned to hunt alongside humans before the dawn of recorded history. All units positioned. Lunar installations are powered up, asteroid belt defense platforms are online, and the Deep Space Hunter-Killer packs are deployed beyond their sensor range. General Hayes nodded with satisfaction. The Viridians were about to learn the difference between being apex predators on their home world and being apex predators everywhere else. Emperor Vractul watched his fleet's approach to Earth with the confidence of a creature that had never been outmatched. 200 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, each crewed by elite Viridian warriors, represented more firepower than most species had ever seen. Sensor sweeps show minimal human activity, reported Fleet Admiral Korthek. A few primitive satellites and what appear to be small mining operations in the asteroid belt. No significant military presence detected. Excellent. Begin orbital bombardment of their major population centers. We'll demonstrate the price of refusing the Empire's generosity. The first indication that something was wrong came when the lead squadrons reached Earth's orbital space. What had appeared to be small mining operations in the asteroid belt suddenly revealed themselves to be heavily armed defensive platforms, their weapon signatures unlike anything in Viridian databases. Admiral, the sensor operator called out in alarm. We're detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. Those weren't mining platforms. They're weapons installations. Before Fleet Admiral Korthek could respond, the first wave of human weapons fire reached his forward squadrons. The attacks came from directions that shouldn't have contained any threats, delivered by weapons that moved too fast and hit too hard for a primitive civilization. Evasive maneuvers, he ordered, but the Viridian ships were designed for overwhelming enemies through superior firepower, not for dodging attacks from multiple directions simultaneously. General Hayes watched the engagement unfold with the professional interest of a persistent hunter watching prey tire itself out. The Viridians were reacting exactly as human strategic analysis had predicted, with aggression, superior individual firepower, and conventional tactics. Phase 2, she ordered quietly. Across the solar system, human installations that had remained hidden during initial Viridian scans suddenly activated. Not just weapons platforms, but coordination networks that had been decades in the making. The humans hadn't just prepared to fight a space battle. They had prepared to fight it as a pack. Emperor Vractal stared at tactical displays that made no sense. His fleet was taking losses from enemies that shouldn't exist, using tactics that violated everything he understood about warfare. How are they coordinating attacks across such vast distances? He demanded. Unknown, my emperor, War Minister Uthal replied, his voice tight with concern. Their communication methods appear to be instantaneous across the entire system. It's as if the whole solar system is acting as a single coordinated predator. That's impossible, but the evidence was undeniable. Human forces weren't fighting like a collection of individual units. They were fighting like a single organism with multiple limbs, each attack coordinated with perfect timing to support every other attack. On Luna Base, Commander Sarah Martinez coordinated the moon's defensive systems while her partner, an enhanced Golden Eagle with reflexes faster than any computer, tracked incoming targets with predatory precision. The partnership between human strategic thinking and enhanced animal instincts had created coordination capabilities that no purely technological solution could match. Incoming Squadron Vector 77 Mark IV, the Eagle communicated through their neural link, a biotechnology advancement that the humans had kept carefully hidden from galactic observation. Sarah's tactical display updated instantly, and lunar railguns opened fire with precision that seemed impossible for weapons of their size. The enhancement wasn't just technological. Generations of partnership between humans and enhanced predators had created hybrid capabilities that transcended what either species could achieve alone. Fleet Admiral Korthek watched another squadron disappear from his tactical display and felt something he hadn't experienced since childhood: genuine fear. The humans weren't just fighting back. They were hunting his fleet with coordination that made his forces look clumsy and predictable. Sir, we're detecting new contacts. Fast movers coming in from the outer system. The new contacts resolved into formations of small, highly maneuverable craft that moved with pack tactics, evolved from Earth's most successful pursuit predators. Each human pilot was partnered with an enhanced animal whose instincts had been shaped by millions of years of successful hunting, then enhanced through genetic modification and cybernetic integration. Commander Jake Thompson's modified Peregrine Falcon partner processed targeting data at speeds that made conventional computers seem sluggish, while Jake's human persistence and strategic thinking guided their small fighter through combat maneuvers that seemed to anticipate Viridian movements before the enemy made them. Pack leader to all hunters, he transmitted. Prey is breaking formation. Standard persistence protocol. Separate the weak ones from the herd. The human fighter formations moved with the fluid coordination of a wolf pack, each pilot capable of individual action while maintaining perfect group coordination. They didn't attack the Viridian fleet head-on. Instead, they used tactics evolved from 100,000 years of hunting creatures larger and stronger than themselves. Emperor Vractal found himself commanding a fleet that was being systematically taken apart by enemies that refused to fight according to accepted rules of engagement. Instead of meeting superior force with superior force, the humans used mobility, coordination, and tactics that seemed designed specifically to counter Viridian advantages. My Emperor, Admiral Korthax's voice crackled through communications from the surface. Recommend immediate withdrawal. These humans have turned their entire solar system into a hunting ground. We're not fighting a civilization. We're fighting a single, coordinated super predator. The Viridian Empire does not retreat from prey species. Emperor Vractal roared. But even as he said it, he watched another wave of his warships fall to human attacks that came from everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. On Earth, General Hayes coordinated the global defense network with enhanced partners that included creatures whose ancestors had been apex predators millions of years before humans existed. Each species brought different predatory capabilities, the persistence of human strategic thinking, the pack coordination of enhanced canines, the precision of enhanced raptors, the power of enhanced felines. Orbital defense platforms prepare for close engagement. She ordered her enhanced partner, a creature descended from Smilodon, but modified for intelligence and longevity, purring with anticipation beside her. The Viridian fleet, frustrated by long-range attacks they couldn't counter effectively, made the tactical decision to close distance and use their superior individual firepower. It was exactly what human strategic analysis had predicted they would do. As the massive alien warships approached Earth's orbital space, they encountered defensive systems that had been designed by predators who understood that the best hunting happened when prey came close enough to be surrounded. Emperor Vractal watched his fleet enter Earth's orbital defense grid and realized too late that he had led his forces into a trap designed by creatures whose ancestors had been setting traps since before his species had discovered fire. The humans hadn't just built weapons. They had turned their entire solar system into a hunting preserve, with Earth as the center of a web designed to capture anything that came close enough. Full retreat, he ordered, but retreat from a pack of persistence hunters was never a simple matter. The human forces followed the withdrawing Viridian fleet with the relentless patience of creatures whose ancestors had run prey to exhaustion across vast distances. They didn't need to destroy every ship. They just needed to demonstrate that escape from human space would happen only when humans chose to allow it. As the surviving Viridian vessels fled toward the edge of the solar system, Emperor Vractal found himself in a position no Viridian ruler had ever experienced. He had been outmatched not by superior individual strength, but by superior pack intelligence and coordination. The humans had done something that should have been impossible. They had turned an entire star system into a single coordinated hunting organism, and they had used it to demonstrate that being apex predators on one world didn't automatically translate to being apex predators everywhere. General Hayes watched the Viridian fleet retreat and felt the satisfaction of a successful hunt. But this had been just the beginning. The humans had learned valuable information about galactic military capabilities, and, more importantly, they had sent a clear message to the wider galaxy. Earth's apex predators were ready to expand their hunting grounds. The Galactic Council chambers had never seen anything like the emergency session called in response to the Viridian Empire's humiliating defeat at Earth. Representatives from 47 civilizations gathered in the massive crystal amphitheater on Nexus Prime, their varied forms united in shock and growing fear. Chancellor Mordak of the Crystalline Zephyrians called the session to order, his translucent form flickering with nervous energy. Fellow members, we face an unprecedented situation. A pre-contact species has not only refused integration into galactic civilization, but has demonstrated military capabilities that challenge our understanding of technological development. The holographic display at the center of the chamber showed tactical recordings from the battle at Earth, images that had shaken every military analyst in the galaxy. The systematic destruction of a 200-ship Viridian fleet by what appeared to be a single, coordinated defense network represented a fundamental shift in galactic power dynamics. Ambassador Veltar of the Insectoid Hive Collective clicked her mandibles in agitation. The humans' coordination exceeds even our swarm intelligence capabilities. They fight as if their entire solar system shares a single consciousness, yet maintain individual initiative. It's evolutionarily impossible. Clearly not impossible, growled Emperor Vractal from his position in the accused section. The Viridian ruler's presence at the emergency session was itself unprecedented. Never before had an apex predator species been forced to justify their actions after a failed conquest. Supreme Admiral Chintak of the militaristic Corvin Federation studied the tactical data with professional interest. Their defensive strategy shows understanding of galactic military doctrine that they shouldn't possess. Either they developed these capabilities independently, which seems unlikely, or they've been observing us longer than we realized. Chancellor Mordak's form shifted to a deeper blue, indicating serious concern. Intelligence reports suggest the latter. Deep space monitoring stations have detected anomalous signals throughout this galactic arm dating back several decades. We may have been under observation since before official first contact protocols were established. The implications sent waves of unease through the assembled representatives. The idea that a pre-contact species had been studying galactic civilization while remaining undetected challenged every assumption about technological and military superiority. More disturbing, continued Admiral Chintak, is their approach to warfare. Most species fight according to their natural predatory or defensive instincts. These humans appear to have studied every known combat doctrine and synthesized them into something entirely new. Representative Kexlin of the peaceful ethereal commune floated higher in distress. If a single world can resist the combined might of an imperial fleet, what does this mean for galactic stability? What happens when they decide to expand beyond their solar system? The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. For millennia, galactic civilization had operated on the principle that apex predator species naturally rose to dominance, while other species found their appropriate niches. The humans had shattered that principle by proving that evolution could produce something even more dangerous than traditional apex predators. Dr. Esikitar, the Viridian xenobiologist who had studied Earth's ecosystem, was called to testify about human capabilities. Her presentation sent new chills through the assembled representatives. The humans didn't just defeat our forces, she explained, her voice carrying scientific fascination tinged with fear. They demonstrated systematic control over their planet's entire ecosystem. Every apex predator on their world either serves them, exists where they permit it to exist, or has been modified to enhance human capabilities. The holographic display showed Earth's enhanced creatures, massive predators that moved with obvious intelligence while deferring completely to human authority. They've essentially created a planet-wide symbiosis between themselves and every successful predatory species in their world's history. The result is a civilization that combines human strategic intelligence with the hunting capabilities of dozens of different apex predator types. Chancellor Mordak's glow dimmed to nearly transparent. Are you saying they've weaponized evolution itself? More than that, Dr. Sikitar replied. They've weaponized cooperation between apex predators, something that should be impossible according to every model of predator behavior we understand. As the representatives absorbed this information, long-range sensors detected new activity in Earth's solar system. The display updated to show human spacecraft, sleek, predatory designs that moved with the same pack coordination that had destroyed the Viridian fleet. They're leaving their system, Admiral Chintak observed. Multiple craft, heading in different directions. It appears they're beginning exploration of nearby systems. The announcement triggered immediate panic among several representatives. The prospect of humans expanding into galactic space while possessing unknown capabilities and hostile intentions terrified civilizations that had grown comfortable with predictable power structures. We must organize a preemptive strike, declared War Chief Graktal of the aggressive Orcish clans. If these humans are as dangerous as suggested, we cannot allow them to establish themselves in galactic space. With what forces? Emperor Vraktal asked bitterly. They destroyed my fleet while barely revealing their true capabilities. Any attack would require overwhelming numbers, and there's no guarantee even that would succeed. Supreme Admiral Chuntak nodded grimly. Our preliminary analysis suggests that attacking Earth would require at least 70% of all galactic military forces. Even then, victory would be uncertain. The humans have had decades to prepare their defenses, and we still don't understand the full extent of their capabilities. Chancellor Mordak called for order as panic began to spread through the chamber. We need alternatives to military confrontation. Has anyone attempted diplomatic contacts since the initial incidents? Ambassador W.L. Tun of the Diplomatic Centauri Republic raised a tentacle. We transmitted standard greeting protocols 3 days ago. The human response was unexpected. The communication display activated, showing a human female in what appeared to be military dress. Her expression was professionally courteous, but carried an undertone that made every predator species in the chamber feel suddenly uneasy. Greetings, members of the Galactic Council. The recorded message began. I'm Admiral Sarah Chun of Earth Solar Defense Force. We're aware of your emergency session and appreciate your concern about our recent defensive actions. The casual mention of their secret session sent new alarms through the representatives. Human intelligence capabilities apparently extended far beyond their solar system. We want to assure the galactic community that Earth has no hostile intentions toward peaceful civilizations. We're explorers and scientists, not conquerors. However, we want to be absolutely clear about our position regarding aggressive actions toward our world or our people. The human admiral's expression shifted slightly, and several predator species in the chamber recognized the subtle change as a threat display. Any civilization that attacks Earth or attempts to claim our territory will discover why we're the apex predators on our world. We've had 200,000 years to perfect the art of hunting things bigger and stronger than ourselves. We're very good at it. The message continued with technical specifications that made Admiral Chuntak's blood freeze. The humans weren't just revealing their defensive capabilities. They were advertising offensive capabilities that exceeded anything in current galactic arsenals. However, Admiral Chin's tone became more diplomatic. We're also interested in peaceful cooperation with civilizations that approach us as equals rather than potential prey or predators. We have much to offer in terms of scientific advancement, technological innovation, and specialized problem-solving capabilities. The final phrase carried implications that weren't lost on the assembled representatives. The humans were offering their services as mercenaries, apex predators available for hire. We'll be establishing diplomatic missions in several neutral systems over the coming months. Any civilization interested in formal relations is welcome to initiate contact through appropriate channels. We look forward to meeting our new neighbors. The message ended, leaving the Galactic Council in stunned silence. The humans had essentially announced their intention to join galactic civilization, while simultaneously making it clear that they would do so on their own terms. Chancellor Mordak finally broke the silence. They're offering partnership rather than conquest, but partnership between equals rather than the traditional hierarchical relationships. Which means what, exactly? Asked Representative Kexlin. It means, Admiral Chintak replied slowly, that they're proposing a fundamental change to how galactic civilization operates. Instead of apex predator species ruling over support species, they're suggesting cooperation between different types of apex predators. The concept was revolutionary in ways that terrified some species and intrigued others. For civilizations that had spent millennia as prey or support species, the idea of human protection against traditional predators was appealing. For established apex predator civilizations, the prospect of competition from an unknown superior was terrifying. Over the following months, human diplomatic missions appeared in neutral systems throughout the galactic arm. Their approach to first contact consistently demonstrated the same pattern: professional courtesy backed by unmistakable predatory capability. Civilizations that approached humans with respect and genuine interest in cooperation found them to be valuable allies. Their scientific capabilities, technological innovations, and unique problem-solving approaches proved beneficial to numerous galactic challenges. Civilizations that attempted to treat humans as inferior or threaten them discovered why Earth's apex predators had never lost a hunting competition. The Corvin Federation, confident in their military superiority, made the mistake of attempting to intimidate human diplomats during trade negotiations. They discovered that humans considered military posturing to be a form of hunting behavior, and responded accordingly. The subsequent engagement lasted less than 6 hours and resulted in the complete neutralization of the Corvin home fleet without a single human casualty. The humans achieved this by using tactics that treated the entire Corvin system as a hunting ground and the defending fleet as prey to be systematically isolated and eliminated. The Zephyrian Republic, in contrast, approached humans with genuine scientific curiosity and offers of equal partnership. They found that human cooperation enhanced their research capabilities exponentially, particularly in fields requiring innovative problem-solving approaches. Within 2 years of first contact, human influence had fundamentally altered galactic power dynamics. They hadn't conquered the galaxy through military force. They had joined it as the new apex species, establishing themselves at the top of the food chain through a combination of superior capabilities and strategic partnerships. The old system of apex predators ruling through strength had been replaced by something far more complex and effective. Humans ruled through competence, innovation, and the ability to make other species more successful through cooperation, while simultaneously making it clear that betrayal would result in systematic elimination. Emperor Vraktal, his empire reduced to a shadow of its former power, found himself serving as a vassal to the species he had attempted to conquer. The arrangement was not entirely unpleasant. Humans proved to be generous allies to those who served them effectively, but the irony was not lost on him. Dr. S.E.K. Tar continued her studies of human capabilities and reached a conclusion that she shared with the reformed Galactic Council during its first session under human oversight. They didn't just become the new apex predators, she reported. They fundamentally changed what it means to be an apex predator. Instead of eliminating competition, they enhanced it. Instead of ruling through fear, they rule through making other species more successful than they could be alone. And if we refuse to cooperate, asked a representative from one of the few remaining independent systems. Admiral Sarah Chun, now serving as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council, smiled with the patient expression of a predator that was completely confident in its position. Then you'll discover why we're called apex predators, she said pleasantly. But I think you'll find that cooperation is much more profitable for everyone involved. The galaxy had a new apex predator, and for the first time in galactic history, being at the top of the food chain meant making everyone else more successful rather than simply consuming them. Humanity had done what they did best. They had turned competition into cooperation, and in doing so, they had become something more dangerous and more effective than any apex predator in galactic history. They had become the species that other apex predators chose to follow.